Okay, one of my favorite songs here. Very personal song. Love it, love it, love it. I'm going to talk about evolution. Not that evolution. I'm going to talk about the evolution. Like, let me tell you a story. And there's a couple. Well, let's say this: all things that are alive grow and evolve, and they should. They should. Like, I'm 40 years old, so in fact, I changed my Facebook picture recently to a picture when I was a little bitty kid. I did that for my own personal reason. Everything I do has a reason. Even like when I play little songs like this. Like, what's this? Man, I'm doing that. So evolving. It's kind of been on my mind. Yesterday, I met a college buddy that I haven't seen since college, and this is 20 years. So I'm 40. So in fact, we were joking that his stepdaughter is as old as we are when we met, and it's like, man, where did the last 20 years go? And it's so interesting how much he is the same, but yet how much he hasn't evolved, and yet he has evolved because obviously he has a stepdaughter now. And when I first met him, and evolution, and I'm kind of from I went to a Christian university, and I look at my own spiritual journey, and I see how I don't want to sound self-congratulatory, but how I've evolved, and how I don't even call myself a Christian anymore because I can't relate to the Christian culture, and I can't relate to that, and for me, where I get my sustenance is whether it's a song or cinema, my yoga practice, and I look at the things that are sacred to me now, and how when I knew him, most of what sustains me, he wouldn't even understand. In fact, he would be antagonistic. In fact, I mentioned cannabis, and you would have thought that I offered him a hypodermic needle, and he was, and right when I'm like, God, who the fuck is this guy? I'm like, John, that was you. That was you. And it was just interesting how things evolve or don't evolve. And one thing I want to do in this YouTube channel is I want to be a voice of evolution, and I want to be a voice of advocacy for the things that I have passion for. Like for example, this morning, like this has kind of been a hard morning. I logged into Facebook, and one of my very first Facebook, how Facebook gives you memories right now, and it's reminding you of something, and it was a note from my daughter, and hashtag MRA, but my beautiful K-Bug, and it was a note that says, "Daddy, dear Daddy, I love you more than my friends," and it was in her handwriting. She drew a heart, and if you're not a part of the MRA movement, that's okay, that's cute, that's great. In fact, I didn't even share it because my daughter and even my son are sacred, but my daughter, the love between the way that the daughter, a note from your daughter, if you're a dad, that just warms your heart. In fact, I remember, one of my first jobs in college, I worked for an orthopedic surgeon, and there was this orthopedic surgeon who, at that point probably was liquid $2 million and had literally a plane and boats and houses, and one of his prized possessions was a little drawing from his daughter, who, and this was in West Texas, and his daughter was a special needs daughter, so that was extra special to him, no pun intended. And so, when I woke up this morning on Facebook, and it showed my daughter saying, "Daddy, I love you more than I love my friends." I'm like, that just, and then I went through a civil trial, and I had to admit the devil had its name, and I became an accidental MRA, and I'm kind of dealing with, like, man, the MRA movement's about 10 years or 5 years away from being mainstream, and I want to feel sorry for myself, and nobody really takes men's rights seriously, and and Texas 2503 is it's the law, but it's so weird to have. I think I posted a video where there was a police chief, on camera admitting that he violates federally protected statuses and doesn't enforce laws for women. And I'm like, wow, we live in America. And then I'm like, John, the devil has his name. Like, you're a white guy in a civil case. Imagine now you understand what black people have been going through for years and millennia. And man, you're seeing you're evolving, and you're seeing a different side of America that you didn't even know existed. And then, like I said, I sat down with a friend yesterday, and he reminded me so much of the Christian people that I went to college with, and while I like him and he's a good guy, I mean, it was so weird, so interesting, because when you sit down with a Christian and you're divorced, like I'm divorced obviously, and I'm happily divorced, and he's, you know, we kind of got the small talk out of the way, and he said, he kind of like lunched forward like he had been thinking about it, and he said, "So tell me about your marriage." And he literally said those words. He goes, "Tell me about your marriage." I'm like, why do you, I'm thinking in my head, like, why do you want to talk about a relationship that happened 6 years ago? I mean, don't you want to hear about the last girl I dated, and don't you want to hear about my last vacation? Like, this is what, and I'm like, wait, John, the Christian culture has not evolved. It's still stuck in 1950s, and man, it's kind of, this is maybe a Crimea River vlog or blog, whatever you want to call this, but you know, this is, you know, evolution. But you know what's funny? I could point fingers at that, and I could you know, be upset about that, and it is very disappointing to sit down with a college buddy and he wants to, but that's how Christians are. I mean, that's why Christians, I mean, Google why are Christians so mean, and yet, you know, I read in John 13, it says, where Jesus says, "We shall be known by our love." I mean, that's the voice of Jesus, but the people who practice that so often are the ones, like, you know, I'm not proud to admit I'm a Christian. That's why I call myself a Jesusian, because I can identify with the character of Jesus more than I can identify with this current Christian culture. And then, you know, and so I want to be a voice of evolution for the Christian culture. And I want to, there's so much that I want to say to the Christian church about, man, you know, the Christian church is basically irrelevant. I mean, they're just a bunch of people that are talking to themselves. And, you know, they're not going to like this YouTube video, but, you know, I'm not speaking to the church. I'm speaking to, you know, the world. And I'm trying to say, you know what? I want to be a voice to the world, that there's a, if you look at the character of Jesus, that's beautiful. That's amazing. I mean, there's healing and life abundant in that character. But, you know, but when you sit down with a Christian, in most cases, it's not John 13, it's something else. And then I have to say, John, there go you. That's who you were when you were 20. And then the MRA movement, you know, it's like, you know, there are a lot of times I'm like, John, just stop making MRA videos, man. Just play your stupid songs, and this is what they'll like. And I'm like, nope. I'm still burning over, you know, what happens to, you know, there's other men, you know, there's men in California, Florida, there's men all over the country that are losing their children in civil cases, and nobody says anything about that. And then I'm like, right when I feel really sorry for myself, I'm like, John, in the 40s and 50s, like, they rounded up 6 million Jews, put them in ovens. Nobody said anything forever. You know why? Because nobody cared. It's like, man, we have to, there has to be a revolution of love again. And I know that's cheesy, and I know this is just YouTube, and I know this is just like, you know, what the fuck is this guy talking about? A revolution of love. And then this morning on my meditative walk, I saw a bumper sticker by Hendrix, and he says, you know, when the power of love surpasses the love of power, then we'll know peace. And I'm like, man, I've heard that quote so many times, and shit, is it true? And do we need that? And we need that on all levels. And it's like, how do we get to that? And then, right when I feel like, you know, what's the Eagles song about the, you know, the wannabe Messiah, I just say, you know, God, you know, thy will be done, you know, and I pray the Lord's Prayer over my own life, and I pray for, you know, my forgiveness of my own sins, and I pray for forgiveness of the resentments that I have towards other people. And I'm like, you know, Jesus had the answers, and he still has the answers. And you know, Jesus is the one who said, you know, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? And Jesus is also the one that would say to America, what does it profit if you have all your success and your strip malls and your nice houses and nice cars, but you're losing your soul? And if there's one work that I want to be a part of, is I want to be a part about restoring the soul. I'm not sure the Christian church is willing to become relevant in my lifetime. I hope I could be a voice for the relevancy of the modern day church, but I don't see it. Like when Ferguson happens, where's the church? Where's the American Christian church? When Jews are rounded up, where's the American church? When we invade foreign lands and kill people, innocent people, where's the American church? And they're nowhere. You know where they're at? They're usually at a buffet talking to themselves about their own little pet issues. And I'm like, guys, what the fuck are we gonna do? I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to the river and pray. And I'm gonna remember the quote by Gandhi. And he says, be the change you wish to be. You need to be the change, John. And I'm like, well, what can I do? I'm just a little man. I'm just a guy. 6 foot, 6'1", long hair, more on the sides and the top, and I got all my imperfections, and God, I'm not rich and powerful, and I'm like, who am I? And I'm like, man, if you just go read the Old Testament stories, God's full of those people. Moses like, I'm not eloquent. I'm like, well, I don't need you to be eloquent. And you go, I'll be your strength. So maybe my voice could do something for the MRA movement. Maybe my voice could do something for the irrelevancy of the church. You know what? It says it takes 1,000 voices to sing a story. It's time that we go back to Jimi Hendrix quote. And we embrace the power of love versus the love of power, or the love of money and the love of wealth. And when we worship anything more than we love love, more than we worship love. In fact, I'll tell you a little one thing that I learned from Richard Rohr, one of my spiritual heroes. And he says, most of what the ego does is about protecting our self-esteem. And you may be watching this video like, I don't even like this guy, and he plays random songs, and he's talking about MRA shit. He's talking about Jesus too much. He's quoting scripture, and he loves his daughter. And I just want you to affirm him. First of all, I'm never going to affirm you. And secondly, I'm going to say, most of what the ego is going to do is try to protect its self-esteem. And one of the things that we worship, or I worship the most, and I can look back, who I really worship? I worship my self-esteem. And if I were to be dead and gone, I would want equity in civil cases for men. I would want to tell my kids I love them. I'd want to hug them and kiss them and hear their voice. I'd want the corruption of the civil case to end, just like I'd want the corruption of what they did to the Jews to end. And I would love for the Jimi Hendrix quote to be brought back, and that is, we as a nation have to be people who love people and put people first. And when the power of love surpasses the love of power, then we'll know serenity and peace. And even my little voice is going to say it. You guys have a great day. Love you guys. Love you, K-Bug. J-Bug. K-Bug, I love you more than I love you. I love my friends. You guys have a great day. Email me, americana417@gmail.com. And even if you don't want to email me at americana417@gmail.com, even if you don't, do something today to show love, to send light. You don't have to do a video. Send a text message. Somebody around you needs love. There's another quote I'll kind of close out. It says, be kind, for everyone around you is bearing a burden. And what if we just for one fucking 12-minute period looked at every person and says, I'm going to do something to help ease that burden, whether it could be a smile or a text message. We have to go back and begin to love other people. Love other people. And when the power of love, man, I'm saying it again. I'm repeating myself. You guys have a great day. Americana417@gmail.com.